Hey everybody, this is Rustyn with Metalholic Magazine and Mojo Radio, and with us tonight, Steve Zetro Souza, the legendary vocalist for Legacy, Exodus, now Hatriot, of course. How are you, brother?
I'm good, brother. How's it going? How's all the metalheads doing tonight?
Absolutely wonderful, and it's always good to talk to you, especially being that we're both Bay Area boys. You know, I've been meaning to ask you, and I haven't seen you probably since like 1986, 87, back at one of our thrash events that we did with the Informant magazine or something, but how did you pick up the Zetro nickname?
Oh, acid trip when I was like 14. I was just flying on some good, real good acid when I was back in the early days, and I just started blurting out this word, Zet. When I came back to school on Monday, everybody's going, "Hey, what's up? Oh, Zet," kind of making fun of me, and then it just kind of stuck from there on that. You know, rock and roll is with nicknames. They love that Slash, Ozzy, anything with a nickname, you know what I mean? Any type of twist on it, they'll take it on. So rock and roll, very welcome to that show, very much so. Honestly, you know what I hear? Some people don't even know my name's Steve, so they'll think it's just Zetro. I'm nothing. Hey, did you grow up in a commune where your parents hippies or something? You know what I mean? So, no, actually, I was all do drugs. Thank you very much.
I of course want to talk with you about Hatriot because the new stuff that you're doing is phenomenal. But of course, as I said,
Great.
Because we're both Bay Area boys, I'd like to journey back first a bit.
Sure, no problem.
So I don't even know if you remember the magazine, The Informant, back then.
Yeah, I do. I remember.
But,
yeah, I do. I remember they had the little awards at the end of the year.
Awards, yep.
The Thrash Awards, yes, I do remember the Informant magazine, yeah.
Yeah, I was the editor of that thing for years, but, you know, back in
all that type of stuff helps the scene. That's why the scene was so thriving at the time, you know?
Well, that's the thing. When I left the Bay Area in '97, the scene was in a coma. The only places to play really were like the Omni, Niles Station, and the Stone.
Yeah, well, even the Omni is dead now. The Stone is dead too. There's nothing left to play. You have to have something to offer. Honestly, you do.
Really? So, I mean, so the scene is still pretty dead in terms of places to play and whatnot? It's never revived?
It's careful. It's, you know, we're playing a place on May 19th called the Rocket Room. Now, I've never played there, and it's in San Francisco, which is good because there's not too many Mabuhay Gardens, Rock on Broadway. There's nothing like that left. So you have to be lucky. There's a great venue in Santa Clara called the Avalon, and Man Down Production does a lot of local metal shows, as well as swilling the locals with national acts. So that's kind of basically what you have to shoot for, kind of. There's no more Tuesday night thrash shows where you'll go there and it's going to be packed. That doesn't exist at all anymore.
Wow, that is just a sad state of affairs. So it's good you're bringing back some great new thrash, man.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, there's these new kids that seem to understand kind of what we did in the 80s, but still bring in a little bit of a new essence to it. You know what I mean? So we put that together with what I write vocally, actually, and it's turned out to be really, really killer, really good stuff. You've heard at least 4 of the songs. We have almost a full record's worth of songs ready to go already. So if you like what you've heard on the 4-song kind of like demo what we put on the Facebook, and you'll love everything else that we've done since then. I mean, we're getting better as we're writing more, and it's in the vein of typical Bay Area thrash. But like I said, these guys are a lot younger, so there's going to be some blast beats in there. There's going to be some kind of death kind of approach to it a little bit. These guys are new. They're raw, and they're fast, young, heavy, hard, and aggressive. And so I'm trying to convey that along as well.
Tell us the idea and the formation of such of the band, how it all came together.
Well, honestly, I heard some songs that the guitar player that I'm writing everything with, because actually the guitar player, Costa V, him and I are writing. He writes all the music and arranges it. It's actually, I don't have to bother him at all. He does it on his own. I mean, just right off the bat, you know, it's like, you know, I don't have to go, hey, why don't you change this part? He gets it. He tells me about 80s thrash I can't even remember. So he is a guitar player that I can, I don't know if this makes sense, write music to. There's a lot of guitar players, there's a lot of heavy people, probably write good songs, young guys, but I don't know if they fit me as well as this guy does, because he writes in the vein of what I've used to in the past. I think there's a lot of legacy and Exodus overtones in the songs in Hatriot. So I think that that's kind of continues my story and my journey of what I've done, but still adds a little bit of a new edge to it. So, and we're trying to convey that. We hope that's what's happening. If you listen to even more of the newer songs, that's definitely happening for sure.
Right. And of course, your son Cody plays bass in the band. Tell us how that came about.
He's about 2003. He's probably 12 or 13. I bought a bass off of Jack Gibson when we were in Exodus rehearsal one time. And I came home and said, "Want to play music? You want to get in the business? Keep saying you want to play bass. There it is. Pick it up. Learn how to play it." And he went online and he found tablatures and played along with songs, and he learned how to play. So he used to play in like this Viking thrash band called Oscar Eye. He has a little bit of history himself. And then it came up to the fact that it was just kind of like Alex and me and Costa writing the songs. And he says, "Well, I want to do this." And I'm like, "Okay, well, you have to try out." "Well, what?" I go, "Yeah, you have to try out. There's no nepotism here, boy. If you can hang, you're on." So he actually tried out, and he got the gig. And so it worked out that way. But he's very good. All the players in the band are very, very quality musicians in their own craft and in their own right. They're really, really good. I've handpicked every one of them. And of course, I've never done anything shit music before. I'm not gonna. I try very hard at this, so I want it to be good. And and to start off is to have good musicians behind you. So I knew if I was going to start a new thrash band, I had to get some musicians who are on my level and get it, and B, the best ones I can get at it. So it took a little minute for me to piece this together, but this is the ultimate lineup. Miguel Esparza, the guitar player who complements Costa, amazing lead player, fast with really, really good technique. So it's going to be like when you see us live, it's like a Gary and Rick thing. They're going to play back and forth, you know what I mean? You're going to see these guys trade off leads, which is what I was shooting for from the beginning.
And then, of course, on drums, it's Alex Bent, right?
Yeah, he's a monster. That kid is a monster. I mean, probably the best drummer I've ever seen, ever. And I mean, this kid is just, when you listen to those kicks on the songs, those are not, faked in the studio. Those are him. He's amazing. He's like a machine. Plays drums constantly, 8 hours a day. He's 18 years old, graduated from school, does not work. His father is completely into his craft. So what Alex does all day is work on his craft. So he is like, he's an animal live too. Animal in the studio, animal live. He totally acts. I mean, I don't know if Hatriot would be the same with another guy, especially at this point. Maybe down the road it'll be different, but for right now, he's a very, very, very big piece of this puzzle.
Now, and of course, as we said, the rest of the band is a generation younger than you and I are. Does that sort of help keep you feel that young vibe and help energize the music, do you think?
Well, that helps me. I mean, because I listen to new stuff as well. I mean, I'll listen to Black Dahlia, I'll listen to Faceless, I'll listen to anything that's coming up right now that a lot of the kids are listening to. We're aware of that we're a thrash band, so breakdowns isn't something that we do. You know what I mean?
Right.
So which is a lot of the new guys. That's what they think. You know what I mean? And my guys aren't geared that way. They know what we're going to do. They know how we're going to approach it. But still, there's that new element that I learned from them. As far as, like I said, I want blast beats. I want stuff like that in there. I want hard, fast double kicks in there. And it works together really well. And when we're in there working it out, we were aware not to go too over the top either way, so I think we've blended it quite well.
Absolutely, and I got to say, I love what I've heard so far, and I'm looking forward to when you guys finally get the album together. And what I'd like to do, if you don't mind, since there's only 4 tracks on it, is talk about the tracks on the EP and maybe the story behind them. The first one, The Fear Within, to me, I mean, that really takes me back even before you were in Exodus. Sort of has a bit of a legacy vibe to it.
Oh, it's very legacy, exactly. Good man, good eye. Yeah, I wrote that with totally. That's The Haunting. That's Burnt Offerings. That's Alone in the Dark. That's exactly where that comes from. Exactly, definitely. But then I come right back with some Exodus stuff, with some tongue-in-cheek stuff like weapons of class destruction and globicidal, both two very heavy topics. Obviously, weapons of class destruction is the kids that come in that that shoot up the schools, and globicidal is the people back in the third world countries that go into public places and explode themselves and everywhere in there. So still heavy subject. And then, of course, back to any type of what metal is all about, anger and mechanics of annihilation is the thoughts that are going through your brain when you're in battle in a fight, not going through it like seek and destroy is about before you go in it. Mechanics of annihilation is when you're engaged, and it's the things you're thinking about when you're kicking the shit out of somebody. So, typical metal topics, but definitely very Zetro, very, very Bay Area thrash, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, right after The Fear Within, when Weapons of Class Destruction came on, my first thought was, God, this could have come right off Fabulous Disaster or Pleasures of the Flesh even.
Sure.
It definitely had that vibe.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. And that's the vibe that it's like, I'm doing what I do. You know what I mean? And then, like I said, you hear Globicidal go, well, wait a minute, this changes it up a little bit. And then Weapons, it's like back to it, the break right before the two trade off the leads at the end of So Exodus, you know what I mean? So, I think it's got all types of the elements that of what typical Bay Area thrash was about and still is about, plus some youngster, I guess, nuance, new blood that was breathed into it, I guess you would have to say.
Yeah, I mean, you can hear a little bit of that, especially like in Globicidal.
Sure.
There's even a touch of death in there, if you will. So
Exactly.
So when can we expect to hear or see the full-blown album?
We are talking with labels. I mean, right now I can't say who. There's two, and honestly, if I was to give you a realistic timeline, record the record this summer, either late fall or early, January. I'd have to say no later than the end of the year or early part of 2013. That's what I would have to say. Because, I mean, that's why I'm starting to do tons of press right now. I really want the buzz going. I want to get this on top. I want to get this record out. I want people to hear it all over the world. The reaction that I'm getting from everybody is exactly the reaction that you've had towards it. And, it's old school thrash. God, it's like bringing me back, but still it's got a lot of new to it. So it's working. The formula's working. We're doing what has been, we thought we could do with this from the beginning. I knew that's what we would be able to convey. So we want to do it on a lot. Believe me, we want a record. We want to be on tour. That's exactly what we're shooting for. So soon, my little metal friends, soon.
Well, and in case that they're wrong and the world does end at the end of the year, you got to get that out there. So, but
I can't wait for that myself. You know what I mean? So, I'll have it out before the end of the year, before the end of the world. So we shall be able to take it to your grave with you, I guess.
You've always sung with a lot of passion, of course, but a lot of anger or rage, and there's still a lot of that going on. What are you angry about these days?
Oh, God, I'm so angry about everything. I hate everything. And it's like I was young and I hated. Now I'm becoming a cantankerous old man, and I hate it even more. You know what I mean? So everything. I tell myself that all the time. I go, you would think I turned 48 and I would have nothing that pissed me off anymore. And I go, and there's so much that I have that's just really everything. I helped Chuck write 4 new songs on the New Testament record, so I keep myself busy, lyrically. So I have a lot to say, I guess. I don't know. I got a lot that's on my mind, a lot that pisses me off, a lot that intrigues me, a lot of things, I guess. Still not out of ideas. I am full of, in fact, I've written everything lyrically that I have music for from Hatriot right now. I'm like, okay, give me another song. Here we go. Ready for the next one. I write them like there's no problem with it at all. I have titles. I have ideas, anything from what's fact or fiction, you know what I mean? Anything,
Well, and it's great that Costas V actually gets into that, can recreate that vibe that you started with Gary so many years ago, and he gets right in there with it and matches you so well.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. That's what makes it work so well, too.
Well,
that's the thing.
Let's talk a little bit about Exodus. I can't talk to the great Zetro and not talk about Exodus at all. Going all the way back, how did you initially come to replace Paul Bailoff after the first album to begin with?
I got a phone call from their management saying that they wanted to talk to me about and feel what my views were. And, you know, we in Legacy had only played with Exodus one time before that. And we had heard through the scene that they didn't want to play with Legacy because Legacy, which Testament now was really good back then and really good live. We had a really good live show, and people came out to see us like they did Exodus. That's just what we've heard, whether we knew that was true or not. So I get in there, and they told me, they said, well, we just wanted to say this to you. We're not going to bullshit you around. We think you take it to the next level. We love Paul, his antics, but we don't think that he'll have what it takes to take this band to the next level, and they wanted me to come talk to you. So from that, we did a couple of nights of rehearsals, and after we did that, we did them at SIR Studios in San Francisco, and I remember after that, they were like, well, you got it if you want it. So I was like, wow, okay, well, let me think about this for a minute. And it took me another day or two, and I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, they'll be all right. And we know a couple of guys that could take over for them, and I had knew Chuck, and then there was another guy they had targeted. So I joined the band. It was kind of sad for them at first, but look, it worked out so well. I mean, Chuck Billy is such a staple of Testament now, you know what I mean? That's like, you know, it would be very hard to replace that man in that band. So that's what's great. It worked out good for everyone. It really did.
Absolutely. So and it's funny when you talk to some people about Exodus, it's like Paul and Rob are the names that come up a lot of the time, like the bookends of the band. But really, I have to say, taking nothing away from Paul or Rob Duke, of course, you are truly the voice of Exodus. I mean, you played on 5 of the band's 9 studio albums so far. Who knows what might happen down the road, and you were fronting the band longer than anyone else. You and Gary wrote some of the band's most iconic songs.
Yeah, I think that'll always be, and people like yourself have always realized that. So that we won't ever have to worry about that. You know what I mean? I think that says itself. And when the book is written, I'm there, and then I understand that. And then that, again, not taking away anything from Rob or Paul as well, because their records are their records. You know what I mean? And they've done well. And Paul's Bought by Blood is monumental, and Exodus has been able to consistently live off of, you know, Rob taking over and being able to be there when I wasn't there. So, I mean, I think, you know, it's great that happens. And it's great, you know, that people still, believe me, I go to shows all the time and people come up to me, oh, it'd be great to hear you back in Exodus. And that's all. But all I say to them is thank you. But, you know, they have a great singer that's there now. I have a new band called Hatriot. Enjoy both bands.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing that was always great about the San Francisco scene back then is, and I said this to Gary like last year when we talked, it was like almost incestuous. You could move parts around from band to band. It was such a close-knit family, and it was just this great organic thing that came out of there. So, but
well, and it still is. Like on Tuesday in February, we played with Testament at the Avalon, and in the crowd was Death Angel guys, Exodus guys, Forbidden guys. Right. You know what I mean? Everybody from the scene, everybody's there. Everybody shows up and everybody supports each other. You know what I mean? So it's all good. I can't think of another scene or genre anywhere else where that's still prevalent. You know, where it still happens.
Right, absolutely, and yeah, it's weird. I mean, we've had our things like the grunge thing out of Seattle and whatnot in the LA music scene, but none of that still has the same. All these years later, that family is still there and it's still creating great music. Back,
and exactly, and it's still looked to as the forefront. It still gets the respect, and even any of that, Slayer, Megadeth,
right.
Anthrax, Metallica, anything from that, it's like that. Like you guys were the forefront of the genre that was very special to a lot of people in a lot of times, and it's when, you know, 30 years later you talk to people and you say, man, we weren't thinking about it at the time, but Damn, it sure was. It really was. And now to look back on it, you have to think, yeah, because if I had to compare the scene to where it is now to where it is then, it's night and day. It's almost night and day.
Yeah. So, well, before we get out of here, a couple more questions for you. One more, because I always wanted to ask this too. You guys chose some intriguing song covers over the years back with Exodus, including AC/DC and the Stones, but how did you guys come up with Lowrider for Fabulous Disaster?
That's a good question. And I wasn't, like Gary and Rick at that time of the band were really the musical force driving. Of course, I was always known for writing great lyrics, and of course I did write great lyrics on all those records. I mean, I had a piece to do in Fabulous Disaster. I wrote Toxic Waltz, you know what I mean? Like Father, Like Son. I wrote a lot of those songs. And those guys always had a good direction, and they would conspire with each other when nobody else would know. So you'd come to practice one day and they'd be like, dude, we're playing Lowrider, and you'd be like, what? And it'd be, oh, dude, you got to check it out. Okay, there you go. Let's go. Tom, hit it. Boom. And it's just like they had it down already. And it's like I wasn't even in on the couch discussion, I guess. That was just something that, and I was like, okay, so do I sing it? My first questions were, do I sing it like the dude in War, like, oh, my. He's all, no, you got to do it in your voice, dude. And that's how that came out. And ironically, people wanted to hear us play Lowrider in that time period. It was like, we want to hear you do Lowrider. And are you guys playing Lowrider tonight? You can play Toxic Waltz tonight. Are you playing Lowrider tonight? Are you playing Toxic Waltz tonight? Those are the two songs people wanted to hear at that time.
And great songs, and you guys did an awesome, fun rendition of it and everything. It's just, you look at a thrash album and you go, where the fuck did that come from? You know?
You know what? Can I tell everybody? Yeah, I said the same thing when that came up, but that's the mind of Gary Holt. And in my mind, that's why he's probably the most brilliant guy in thrash, if not the one of the, and that's in the top 4. You know what I mean?
Right.
Very brilliant individual.
So now, going way back for you, who initially influenced you to become a singer, and where do you draw your writing influences from?
Writing influences come from anything, I guess. Led Zeppelin was the first thing I heard. I remember buying Led Zeppelin 4 when I was 8. 72, I think that came out. I was 8. But my dad's an old school biker, so I was aware of it. I didn't have no weird, snurdy old man. My old man was hip. My old man got it. So when I was in his garage, he was working on motorcycles. He listened to FM station. They played all that type of stuff. So I listened to the darker and the heavier type music. I knew who Black Sabbath was when I was 9 years old, and that's, how many kids at that time, they're listening to freaking Donny Osmond or Molly the Jackson 5 at that time,
you lucky bastard.
So, my old man, I got into it. So as music moved on, I always listened to anything that was considered hard rock or heavy metal. Aerosmith, Ted Nugent, AC/DC, anything that was the harder stuff. So listening to all that. And when I saw AC/DC at a Dan Green, I was like, he gets on, Angus gets on Bon Scott's shoulders, and I can just see those two together. I'm like, that's what I want to be. So I started listening to Angus AC/DC albums and modeling my voice to sound like Bon Scott. I would just try to imitate him. So when I started singing thrash, it was kind of a combination of Bon Scott and Udo Dirkschneider shoved all into one.
Right.
Kind of.
But your voice has lasted better than theirs have.
Honestly, I get better and stronger as I'm going along, and I work on my craft, and I keep myself in shape for the most part. I don't do drugs. You know what I mean? I haven't been drinking alcohol in the last year and a half, so I'm trying to keep myself ready to go. Our rehearsals are work. When we go to rehearsals, we work. It's not a party. So I make my time, what little time I have, I make it work. I mean, I do an AC/DC tribute band called AC/DC, where I just go to clubs and I play only Bon Scott era AC/DC. It's fucking really cool. And then I do Dublin Death Patrol with Chuck Billy, and then any other thing that comes my way. So I keep myself kind of busy, my man.
Yeah, how did you come to work with Angerhead on their EP?
They came to me. I'm very good friends with their manager, and he actually books the Avalon. And he says, Zach, can you do me a favor? I'm like, sure. What do you want me to do? He goes, your voice would sound great on this Angerhead EP. And I'm all, okay. And so they gave me the song, and I just listened to it, rehearsed it, and came in the studio one day and took care of it. I'm very easily accessible. If you got some part that's cool and you want me to sing on it, I'm not above not doing it. So if I can work it out in my schedule, I'll come and do it. I just like to play music.
The thrash version of Ripper Owens, right? So.
I guess. I don't know. I just like to play music. I'll go. I'm a whore. Look at all the projects I've got. I was in Legacy. I've done Exodus. I did a record with a band called Tenon.
Right.
I've got a second record coming out with Dublin Death Patrol this July 13th. I've sang on the last Forbidden record. I've written on the last two Testament records. I have Hatriot going on. So, yeah, I have AC/DC. I keep myself busy, my man. I keep myself busy.
Nice. Steve, thanks so much, and hopefully we'll talk again when the album is ready to come out. And you take care of yourself.
Man. Thank you.
Take care, brother.
Thanks.
Bye.